Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, do you have any legacy technology sitting around your house? Like the stuff that you just refuse to or just haven't gotten around to upgrading?
I got an old Wii. Let's see here. I got a toaster. Is that like really old technology I still got laying around?
I'm sure there are some very modernized, hyper-tech toasters out there.
And I don't mean to jinx myself, but I do have like an amplifier stereo that I've literally had since I was like 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it still works.
That's
It's
impressive.
still great, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Wii, and
Yes.
I'm with you also. Like my newest video game system is a PS3 still at this point. But I mentioned my son's getting into video games. Like he loves playing the Lego stuff on there.
Yes.
I have a feeling we're not too many years away from him demanding like the PS7 or whatever may be out or something at that point.
Yeah.
Which I can't say I'll complain because I don't get to play games that much anymore except with him. So I won't mind.
You need to
getting
upgrade,
something
dude. You
next
definitely
gen.
need to upgrade. What are you waiting for, man?
Well, there's still so much stuff on the PS3 I never even got around playing.
Fair enough.
The only other thing I can think of, and I was just having this conversation with Marco before we went on, super producer Marco, the washer and dryer is one of those things that I've never felt the need to. I mean, granted, mine's lasted, and you don't need to make the purchase if you don't need to. But
Right.
it's also one of those things where I'm like, do I really need to buy a brand new, state-of-the-art, super Wi-Fi, high-tech digital?
Why do you need that?
I don't know.
You need
Marco's
an
getting some
agitator?
new ones. He's got some, getting some little bugs
Dude,
in
that
them.
technology has not changed. Come on now.
Exactly. Like I just need
me
to
a
wash
break.
my clothes.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
need it to ping me when
No.
things are done or
No.
remind me that I haven't washed clothes in a week or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Features that go unused.
Exactly.
Shall I say? Yeah.
If you're wondering what the point of this,
Yes. What is the point, by the way?
We're talking today about legacy point of sale systems.
Yes.
And replacing them,
Yes.
what it takes to make that happen, because I'm sure a lot of our VARs deal with this, constant, struggle and push-pull of, hey, I know my customers are using POS that's out of date, it's old,
Right.
but they've probably got an it ain't broke, don't fix it attitude, and I just can't get them to do it. So we're gonna talk about that. We've got Jeremy Julian back on with us today.
Nice. Yep.
We haven't checked in with him in a while, but he's gonna talk to us a little bit about replacing those systems, why people are so maybe tied to their legacy systems, and he's got a cool little 3-step process to help VARs get to their customers to make that move, maybe come to the conclusion that they need to change.
Nice. Influencing people.
That's right.
Yes.
That's the best way to sell is when you convince someone else they need to buy something because they just need to think about it long enough.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to tell you to buy something. I'm just going to tell you some things to think about, and
plant
you're
some
going to come
seeds.
to it on your own.
Yes, that's it. That's
exactly.
it. A Jedi mind game.
Yeah, exactly. All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our guest today is Jeremy Julian. He is from Custom Business Solutions. He's the CRO. He's also the creator and host of the Restaurant Guys, or the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast.
Yes.
Highly recommend that show. He's actually at it ahead of us. We're only a little over 150 episodes. You're what, 200 something now, I think?
Yeah, I just posted 2 something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely recorded over 200. Now it's just a question of have they released yet. A little inside baseball here. We record these things and post them, a week or 2 or 3 from now because people like Marco got to do the production work.
That's right.
That's right.
Those knuckleheads that have the microphones in front of us say dumb things and have stuff that he's got to go fix.
You are officially Marco's best friend now. You're preaching to his choir at this point.
Yes.
His demand that the talent not be in control of anything around here. So, well, thanks so much for coming back. We appreciate having you back on the show. What have you been up to over the last year or so? What's been going on in your world?
The world, as we talked about pre-show, just continues to change, and technology is always evolving. Whether it's a PS3 to a PS7 or whatever you guys were talking about, but yeah, in general, just continuing to work in the restaurant space, producing the podcast, and talking to people about legacy POS that they don't want to change. At the end of the day, it's been, I don't want to say the bane of our existence, but it's been tough. It's been tough to get people to do it, and so I know we're we're going to dig into at least what we've found to be successful, and hopefully that'll help our audience a little bit today.
That's right. That's what you're here for. All right. Well, then let's get started on this conversation. Let's talk about the legacy POS for one thing. And I guess let's start with, how do you define that? Like, what age does a POS have to be? How long does it have to have been in use? What does that count as right now? And then why do you think that businesses, retailers, restaurants, hospitality, why are they so hesitant to make changes to their legacy systems?
Yeah, I think it's a two-part. There's probably a lot to that question, but the first of which is really just hardware. There's the hardware aspect of things, which I often will tell our own retailers. It's like, give me your laptop. Oh, it happens to be the newest MacBook that you just bought. Oh, let me see your iPhone. And they've got the newest iPhone. And then you give me your headphones that you use. Oh, they have the latest AirPod headphones. And then you go to their point of sale and it's 7, it's 9, it's 11 years old. And you go, okay, so what's helping you pay for this is product that is 11 years old. Why are you using stuff that's ultimately helping you pay for your iPhone, pay for your Verizon bill, pay for your livelihood? Why are you using stuff that's 10 years old, when the truth is you would never give that to your kid to go off to college? You would never use that in your own home, but you're going to do that with your business. And so on the hardware side, I think anything that's more than 5 years old certainly needs to be considered to be replaced. There's certain pieces of tech that don't evolve, as you guys were talking about pre-show, as much, but I think a lot of the compute certainly needs to be considered anytime after 5 years. And some of our best customers have a life cycle management program where they know that in their kitchen, they're going to replace their kitchen printers every 3 years, because a kitchen printer that goes down on a Friday night costs them a ton of money. The second piece, John, that I would say is software. The software that goes into running your business every day needs to be evaluated. And again, is it keeping up with the times? Is it allowing you to do the things that you want to do? Is it cloud enabled? Can you live the lifestyle that you want using your point of sale technology? And so that's the second piece is does the legacy point of sale, and I say legacy in quotes, air quotes for those that aren't watching on video, because it may be legacy, meaning it's got 10 years of life cycle or 15 years of life cycle or 20 years of life cycle, but it's giving you the business needs that you have. And then there's many of them that don't. And so from that perspective, that's huge. The last piece, and I'm sorry to ramble on a little too much, the last piece is the charge of the point of sale that you're using the way it was intended. Oftentimes, the point of sale product was created to solve a problem in grocery, to solve a problem in retail, to solve a problem in restaurants, and then got acquired by somebody that had a different charge. Their charge was to get into payments. Their charge was to get into, some other vertical that was outside of cannabis. It's a retail product that was driven and started for retail, and then they went into the cannabis industry. And there's nothing wrong with cannabis, but cannabis's needs are very different than a retailer that's selling clothing. And so understanding that, is their charge that they started with and when you bought the product in the same vein that it is that you would want to be today? And then the last question I ask all of our customers is, would you buy the product again if you had money sitting around and time? And if the answer is no, then you need to be evaluating it. And for our resellers and VARs out there, they need to be asking those questions of their customers.
Yeah, ask those questions. Going back to the hardware, we were at Retail Now recently, and they're celebrating their 75th anniversary. RSPA is, and they had a temporary museum piece in the back of the hall, and it was like all the technology through the years, right, Jeremy? I mean, going back from whatever, way back. The first cash registers and stuff like that. So if you walk into your customers and they have some of these antique pieces of hardware, yeah, they might need to upgrade. But do they still work? Some of them still worked, but is it working efficiently? And I think those are the questions. I mean, to your point, Jeremy, that sometimes are hard to ask those questions, right? Because customers, they've got that what you said at the top. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of a thing. So why do I need to change? Well, the world has changed, and it's changed in a lot of ways that we'll kind of dive in here. But these are the kind of questions you really have to be. You don't have to be forceful or use car salesman kind of way of asking them.
Right.
But it's to the benefit of the user, the retail or the hospitality establishment, to have some of the advantages of modern hardware, modern software can bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Jeremy, you're dead on what you said earlier about the tech that we all carry around and use in our day-to-day lives. I'm always a big proponent of this idea of why should your workplace tech be much lower tech than what you get to use in your personal life.
Right.
And granted, I get, there's going to be some situations where maybe, it's just not practical to have the latest and absolute greatest in a business. But at the same time, if you want to attract younger talent, especially if you want people to feel like they have a positive work experience with their technology, because again, it needs to match up with what they're used to in their daily lives. I'm used to stuff that works quickly and efficiently and is connected. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about connectivity later too. And if the stuff I'm using for my work isn't doing the same, it's not going to feel right.
Well, if it doesn't have the capability to do that from a software perspective and whatnot, I mean, yes, you're not as efficient. You're not going to be able to explore or exploit, shall I say, all the things that this modern technology can bring.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it's but again, going back to the conversation, you have to be able to have the conversation, right, and not break the inertia of what are we doing here. Right. Kind of a thing, right?
what are you doing
here?
Well, and it does come back to the customer experience, though. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, there's the staff side of it. Or is the staff attracted to it? Are they enjoying where they're working because they're able to make the money that they need to? Can they do their job efficiently, or is this rote, ways of doing it? The second piece of that, though, I think is consumers have been, whether it's the DoorDash effect or the Amazon effect, consumers expect certain things out of retailers. They expect certain things out of hospitality. And if you can't deliver it because your tech is not capable of it, they will stop patronizing your business. And at the end of the day, you're losing out in the sales game to some of the others because your tech can't keep up.
Yeah. And I think some people get that. Like I was at a small roadside place where you buy corn and tomatoes this time of year. They even had some of the technology and they understand, quote, omni-channel and, asking people to sign up for their stuff and things of that nature. So some people get it. Yeah. And even a small farmer roadside stand can benefit from some of the technologies out there today. Yeah. If you're,
but I mean, just think about something as simple as that is like, hey, you don't have to wait and drive by that certain place on the road and see if the sign's up saying there's fresh tomatoes today. What if you got an email? What if you got a text message telling there's there? It's simple stuff like that.
Look at our sweet corn haul. Yeah. People be flocking to that stuff.
I mean, it's meeting business needs up, matching them up with, with what customers deal with in their daily lives. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. Not only that technology that we're used to, that we want to bring to the table as an employee, but the technology that their customers are used to and would expect to find in the businesses they shop in as well. Yeah. So,
all right.
Well then, okay, let's get into your approach. You kind of encourage this 3-step approach when it comes to replacing POS, and I think this is good information that our VARs can take and use when they're going out and trying to talk to their customers about how to approach these conversations around legacy POS. So step 1 is to evaluate the current system. And I think that's a great point because I know most VARs or ISVs, when they walk into let's say in a restaurant or retailer or whatever, they see what they're using. They probably like, all right, I know all the stuff that's wrong with this and why you should get this thing that I have. But I think it's important to be able to tell them to do a little self-evaluation so they can kind of, like we mentioned earlier, kind of lead themselves there and get to that point along the way.
Yep.
So what do you recommend that VARs are talking to their customers and asking their customers to consider about their current system that ideally leads them down this path to something new?
So the big fallacy, I guess, in the world of technology is all technology is the same. Or all POS is the same. And you hear retailers say this, all POS is the same. It can all do everything that you need it to do. And the truth is that is a fallacy. It doesn't exist. Different technologies do things differently. And so because of that, I recommend, and we recommend as a business when we go into these establishments, is write down the things that you love about your existing system. What are the 10 things that if they went away tomorrow because they changed the feature, that system went away, that you guys would want to use? From, again, in restaurants, and that's where primarily our focus has been. Are you using third-party delivery integration? Does your KDS really do what you want it to do? Are you using some form of kiosk or online ordering? How is it printing in the kitchen? Is something as silly as how it prints in the kitchen or at the bar can drastically impact the guest experience if it's not printing the way that you want it to? long cook times go up to the top. In a bar scenario, the daiquiris always need to go up to the top because those are blended and they take longer to make than a Jack and Coke. And so things people don't think about, but create the levels of efficiency. And so writing down those things that may have been in your solution for 1, 3, 5, 10 years. The second piece about that is what are you integrating with today? What are you integrating with on the payroll side? What are you integrating with on the payment side? What are you integrating with on all of the different pieces that you do to run your business? What are those integration touch points? Write those things down. Because again, not all POS is created equal. And so because not all POS is created equal, truly writing them down and building them, and I say writing them down, put them on a piece of paper, put them in an Excel spreadsheet of the top 20 things that you need, because without it, you're going to make a mistake. Guaranteed you're going to make a mistake if you just assume that everything, and this same thing goes for retail, the same thing goes for hospitality, same thing goes for grocery, is what are the things that you want or need and have to have in your next system? Once you write those things down, it creates an opportunity for you to ensure that they can do what it is that you need.
Good
like
stuff.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe in this part of the process, this is where you have to start asking those questions as you kind of teed it up in the beginning there, because this is your opportunity to start laying the foundation for some of the potential that a new system could bring in. So as you're evaluating, I love the idea that you're asking the questions, what do you like about it? What's working for you today?
Right.
But then also peppering in some additional things like, well, have you, if the store is of any size, have you ever considered having mobile POS where people can, check out, or your associates can walk and do checkout remotely? Or what are your feelings on, having more of an omni-channel experience? Even if they don't even understand that, maybe you could cue it up a different way. Have you ever had a customer say, gee, I wish I knew that this sale was happening, or that you guys are now stocking this product, or something along those lines? Those are clues that, hey, maybe you should start considering a system that is more integrated into what we would call an omni-channel experience, right? Having loyalty programs or and marketing aspects and things of that nature. Or, sometimes I know a lot of store owners, if you're actually talking to the owners, they like to get into the analytics or the numbers around their business.
Right.
And you can start probing for that. Well, is the system giving you in an efficient manner the kind of reporting that you would need? Or have you ever seen these types of reports? So again, I think that this is, during this stage, it's a perfect time to start planting some of those seeds, start uncovering, some opportunities to make a case for why a new one's going to be the better solution.
Yeah, I agree. I love the idea of making lists of what you like and what you would improve or do differently, or what you would like to have. Because I guarantee you, when you ask someone to do that, and especially that person that says like, this is fine, POS is great, they're all the same, I know, like I like what I've got, it's good enough. They start making that list and find out it's hard to get to 10 things that they genuinely like. Maybe they can get the first 5 or 6 easily, and then they start, what else? Let's see. I mean, I like that the screen's blue, it might start getting pretty hard after a while. But then I promise you, when they switch over to that, what would you like to have? That list probably gets filled in much faster and much easier than before.
But I'm also encouraging, if they don't have a very robust list, that's where you really start asking questions, because you can start filling in the gaps of what
stuff they just
don't
aren't
even
thinking
know.
about. Yeah, exactly.
They just don't know what some of these possibilities are.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the other questions that occurred to me is maybe like asking about, again, this is a timely question, like, what did you do during the pandemic? Like, what did you have to pivot or switch? What changed about your business during that time? Because if nothing else, there might have been some like kind of piecemeal stuff that they threw together. They might have tacked on something to help them do order management, or, curbside or whatever. And, and I think there's a lot of folks that may have done that are still maybe running with that kind of tacked on, additional
Band-Aid.
piece of software.
We'll call it a Band-Aid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
With kind of like we know this, it'd be ideal if this was all integrated and part of our overall system. But right now we're just we've got it over there, and it's doing the job at the moment. Because that's the kind of stuff too that I think when you start realizing like, hey, here's what we had to do to get through that time. It's kind of a nice, it lays a groundwork of, well, hey, I'm assuming we're all not expecting another pandemic anytime soon, but now that we know that kind of thing's on the table and could potentially happen, why don't we make sure that we're ready for it the next time out, or ready for the next challenge that could potentially come along?
Yeah,
so I think asking those kind of questions, can help maybe kind of, push them in that, again, keep pushing them in that direction of understanding like there are things that you could do differently.
Well, and one of the things that I would add to that, guys, is that ask other people other than the owner. I literally sat through a meeting yesterday with 4 people for a small regional chain, and the owner, piped up and asked answered the question when I asked what do they love about what it is that they're doing. They happen to be on a legacy POS. Their legacy POS happened to get bought by a payments company, and so because of that, they're now in the market for a new POS because the payments company won't do what it is that they want them to do to fulfill their business needs. And I know we'll get into kind of what do you want to do here in a few minutes, but the owner, is a disc profile, high ID, like just answers all the questions. But then me as the salesperson, I started asking the operations guy, the IT guy, the finance person, because you know what? They love certain things about the system that the owner doesn't even know about. When you're in a retail establishment, ask an associate, go patronize your customers as a VAR, or go patronize those people to go figure out what do they love about what it is that they do today. Go sit at the bar at one of these restaurants that you're trying to sell and go talk to the bartender. Amazingly, the bartender is going to give you a ton of information about what they love and what they hate, because they're sitting there talking, and you don't think about that. When you're sitting at a table, talk to the server. Hey, you know what? I noticed that you're using XYZ technology. What do you love about it? Tell me a little bit more. What makes your life easier? Oh, this freaking thing sucks. No, come on, man. I can't. Why are you still here then? Oh, but you end up getting into these conversations where they're like, oh, I love the way that they do tip adjustments, and tip adjustments truly help me close out my day, and I can get home to my family at the end of my shift. And you don't think about those things, but now you can go in and use those as points of validation when you're educating the customer about the things that you want. So do that proper research about what they love with the end users that are also using the system. Don't just rely on the owner, because oftentimes they don't know what they use about that technology as well. They like the reports. They like to know that it balances in the books. They like to make sure that the money gets into their bank account, or that they can get their labor percentages texted to their phone, first thing in the morning, or whatever it is. But the associates at the end user level oftentimes are using pieces of tech that they don't even know about. So patronize those people, And then on the flip side, and again, John, I know we'll talk about it here in a second, is figure out what are those things that drive them crazy. They're in a retail establishment. They struggle with returns, and the returns for the omni-channel thing don't work well if I bought online and return in store. That makes them crazy and costs them an extra hour's worth of time. If you've got a retail solution that could solve for that, now in a kind way, not in a used car salesman way, you bring those things up. So sorry, I thought that was important to ask more than just the one person you're talking to. Patronize the establishment, retail establishment. Go figure out what do they love about it. You're standing at a grocery store. You're talking to somebody that's stocking shelves. What do they hate about it? What do they love about it? Ask those questions, because those pieces of data can be used as arrows in your quiver to help people understand things and educate them about their business that they may not have even known about what was really, really good about what they have, or really, really bad. And a real quick story, we did a poor job of this about 15 years ago, and went and sold a point of sale solution to somebody. And ultimately it got pulled out after 90 days because the staff all quit because we couldn't fulfill one feature that they had.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But the entire staff said, if you can't get us this feature in the next 30 days, they all quit. The entire staff quit because they wanted that feature. They ultimately put the competing technology back in so that they could keep that staff. Silly story, but it's very, very true.
that happens. Yes, I believe it.
That's what you're up against here.
No doubt.
All right. Well, then you kind of mentioned it. We're getting into step 2 here. It's choosing the right system for their needs, which probably sounds like a no-brainer. Like, well, duh. Figure out what you want and choose the system for it. But we know that's a little bit more complicated.
No
than
doubt.
It sounds.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are some of the important benchmarks that they should be looking for when helping someone choose the right system? Again, I think most of our VARs know not to have the attitude to go in like, I know exactly what I'm going to sell them. I know they're using this. I want them to use this. This is what I'm going to sell them. We know that's not a smart way to approach it, because you might find as you start having these conversations that it takes you in a completely different direction. So what are some benchmarks they should look for? And then talk a little bit more about the connectivity piece of it. You've kind of mentioned, some of the back of the house type stuff, returns management, KDS, the stuff that's not necessarily directly the part of the front of house POS, bringing up a sales system.
Yeah.
So why is that stuff so important to be looking at also? So give us kind of the full picture of how to choose the right system for their needs.
So the things that we like to do as part of the consultative sale is we understand what they love about the system. We know because we're experts in the industry, what opportunities that they have, whether that be kiosk and self-ordering, whether that be mobile payment, whether that be pay at the table, order at the table, whether that be kitchen management, whether that be production management. That customer that we were at yesterday, that potential customer we were at yesterday does fried chicken, and the fried chicken cook times are in between 14 and 17 minutes. I asked the client, I said, how do you guys know how much chicken to drop? Well, it gets dropped when the people order it. I said, okay, if I could give you within a 99% accuracy how many chicken breasts you're going to sell on Tuesday at 3:00 in the afternoon, and you could have them ready and you could get the customers out 10 minutes faster, how much better would that make your business? These types of things that we know that our technology can do, we present those to people and give them, and we have a phrase in our marketing that's, in a sea of no's where everybody's telling you, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do this on your legacy side. We create an island of possibilities where they can go out and figure out what are these things that they didn't even know they could do. So we educate them into the right buying decision to understand the things that they may have not known even exist. Because oftentimes they're running a retail establishment, they're running a restaurant, they're out there in the trenches doing these things. And so the goal is to educate them about the things that would make their business better. Part of why it's so critical to patronize these establishments, because when you're there, you can tell true stories of when you were there with your kids and you got stuck for an extra 40 minutes because you couldn't get your check at the restaurant and you missed the movie, or you were late to the soccer game, and it made for a bad guest experience. And again, the same thing can go for a retail establishment when, order online, return in store, even stock. I mean, that's a huge one for us. We have 4 kids. Our kids play sports. I need to know real-time stock levels, because if they need a new pair of cleats because they forgot to tell me and it's game day, I got to know that I can go to that sporting goods store and pick up a pair of cleats, or that shoe store and pick up a pair of cleats for that game, which has happened. I've been traveling with my kids and they go, oh, I forgot these. And it's like, crap, now I'm in a new city and I need to know whether those things are out there. And so you can use those real life examples to help educate people as to the world that they don't have today. You talked about KDS. I mean, KDS, there's a reason why all of the really big brands are using kitchen video, because it makes it more efficient. Not that printers are bad. And I love our printer manufacturers. You guys sell lots of printers. We sell lots of printers. So it's not about that. It's really about, in the kitchen, how do I do production management? How do I know what should be on the grill? How many burger patties should I have on the grill? Making those things efficient to drive the behavior so that the end user has a better experience and the consumer has a better experience is part of the critical nature of that. And so, John, you asked what and where and why. As a VAR, you're obviously going to go in and sell something that you have. You're going to maximize the things that you can do for that business. And I would make sure that you do that. Make sure that you express to the end users the things that you already know. If you've got case studies or you've got examples of somebody that put in pay at the table, and we have a use case for a customer that did a press release that said they got 18% faster table turns by doing order and pay at the table. For a really busy restaurant, that's almost 20% increase in sales when they're on a wait 80% of the time. 20% increase in sales, that pays for the system in 6 months. And, and the minor amount of pain that you have to go through to change it pays for it in 6 months and forever, ever and always beyond that. And so use those case studies to express to the end user, to that retailer, what you did for somebody else and show them that.
I'm a huge fan of case studies. Absolutely. I mean, it's a great way to humanize, if you will, to your prospect or who you're selling to, a solution that works, right? That they can go and see, and then they can. There's a comfort level there that comes from, oh yeah, okay, they're feeling the same pain as I was. So yeah, huge on case studies. I think they're very important to create, worthwhile. You know, even if you don't have a marketing department, to any of our out there, just spend the time. Create the hour. If it's a Word document, it doesn't matter. Just document what it is. It can be
very simple. You just have a conversation, learn about, hey, what was your challenges beforehand? Yeah. How did our technology help you fix those challenges? Yeah. What are you dealing with now? How are things different than they were before? Yeah. If you're covering those 3 bases, that's
stories. Stories resonate. Stories stick. Mm-hmm. Telling them that they got an 18% increase is awesome statistics, but statistics don't create an emotional attachment to that. They increase their sales and or whatever it is. But again, understanding what they're trying to accomplish as a brand, but you've got to tell those stories. Those case studies are ultimately stories of the success that you've already found within like establishments in those environments.
Yeah.
Let's dive a little bit into the connectivity into other parts of the business or other technologies. We've been intrigued by such things as like, machine vision and how, video technology, the capture, like surveillance video and stuff like that is really starting to creep into this world. And it presents itself as an opportunity for value-added resellers to get into that game because, whether it's theft detection, that's happening at the register or things of that nature, or at least documenting that through surveillance video, or whether it's going to be, heat mapping what people are doing or what activities actually happening in your store. There's a lot that's happening in that game as we know. So, I think it is important for resellers, if you know your game, but as we advocate here, making sure that you have at least, those auxiliary type of solutions available to or knowledgeable about them, because, we've been talking a lot about here about a retailer or a hospitality that may not know a lot about the technology. But then again, you're probably going to run into some of them that do read up on what the latest technology is. And they are looking for these types of things. They want to be hyper efficient in what they do. Whether it's the brewery down the road or whatever, there are a lot of tech savvy people out there that you need to have solutions, and solutions are through connected parts, right? It's connecting them to ERPs or video surveillance systems or what have you to make it a more holistic solution. So you got to be cognizant of that too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And choosing the right system, right?
Yeah. And I think we kind of go back again to what we were talking about early on. It's the idea of what we like in our personal lives, what we deal with in our personal lives, wanting to bring that into the workplace. Connectivity is another part of that. We've all been living in a world of IoT and connectivity within our own personal lives for a long time. I love the Apple ecosystem, for instance, because I can copy something on my phone, paste it to my Mac. I can, start watching something on my iPad and then transition over to my Apple TV at home with, a seamless type of experience. That kind of connectivity, people are, the home connectivity that people have going on now, where all of your cameras and thermostats and, alarm systems are all connected together. Again, we all live with this stuff in our daily lives. So the expectation then should be when I go to work, everything's connected there,
it's
too.
It's not going to be a calculator.
Whatever I'm doing at the front of the store, ringing people out, should be immediately transparent to the folks in the back of the store, the back of the restaurant. Like we were talking about earlier with, if the restaurant, like, hey, this is this time of day when we know that people show up and buy a lot of burgers. It's, the burger crowd shows up at this time every day. Let's make sure there's more burgers that are on the grill right now. Stuff like that, where just it's again, bringing what we all expect and are used to in our real lives into our workplace lives. And I just think sometimes, when you're having these conversations with your actual customers, maybe they don't realize that's possible. Or maybe it's one of those things, again, on their wish list of like, hey, it'd be nice if I could do this kind of thing that I can do with my home, technology. And you look at it and go, well, you can. There's no reason you can't do that. Just no one's ever talked to you about it before, but you can do
it's
something.
It's why you have to ask the questions, because it's equally devastating from a sales perspective when you lose a deal because you didn't have the technology,
very much
right?
so, yes.
When somebody had already read up on all the information and they found you to be inadequate to solve those issues. You ask the question at the end, why did we lose this again? Oh, well, because you didn't have all this functionality that we were looking for. But you didn't say anything in the evaluation meeting we had. Dude, you got to ask the questions, right?
Yeah,
you got to probe a little bit.
No doubt.
But I think that's why it's so critical for you to understand what the business needs are, and then engage partners like BlueStar, go to events like RSPA to go research those things to say, our customers are looking for machine learning based, computer vision AI, or they're not looking for that. They're never going to say, I want a machine learning computer based AI, blah, 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 blah. They're going to say, I have a huge theft problem. And your job is to go figure out, whether it's at retail now, whether it's calling your rep at BlueStar or going out and doing the research yourself, so that you can bring a provider back to them. You don't have to own it all. I hate that in our community, all too often people want to do everything. And if you're serving everyone, but there's thousands of partners out there. You guys have an ecosystem of thousands of ISVs that are creating solutions to solve these problems. Go research those things, but understand what their pain points are. Then go figure out how to solve them. Mutual friend Jim Roddy talks about being the trusted advisor to these people. Go figure out what their pain points are. They're going to tell you I have a theft problem. They're going to tell you I have a labor problem. They're going to tell you I have a supply chain problem. They're going to tell you I have a food quality problem. Your job is to understand tell me more about the food quality. Well, we went from 3% off-site, off-premise food to 60% off-premise food because of the pandemic and the right products not getting into the packaging. Okay, tell me a little bit more. Is it quality? Is it doing it through third-party delivery? Ask those questions. We're investigating. We're talking to 3 different AI companies that do machine learning to make sure that what gets in the package is what the customer ordered.
That's it. That's right. Yeah.
Using the KDS data, but they didn't tell us, go find a company that goes and does that. But I bring them back to them and they're like, why didn't I know that this existed out in the world? Now we've solved that problem. Guess what? They're going to write a check for it because, I talked to an executive at a brand. He said 70% of their complaints were related to food quality for outside of their premise food, 70%, and so they've got to solve that problem. And if we can help them do that through technology, through using tools that you guys have found and others have found, why not?
Yeah, true.
Well, and I think that's a nice segue into our last step of this process here, because you encourage customers to actually do the research on technology providers and find out, like, hey, who is the right match for you? Now, ideally, obviously, if you're in the position you're trying to win this business, maybe you're thinking like, yeah, I don't want to go out and tell them to go look around and find someone else. I want to be that person. But let's be honest, a lot of these decisions happen and these discussions are going on, and a lot of this outreach and look for technology is happening without you even being involved.
Absolutely.
Ideally, you're part of that process very early on, or you're helping encourage and create that process. But let's say that somebody, is on their own doing the research. They're trying to figure out, like, hey, I know I need something new. I'm looking for something different. I've got this legacy system that it's time to upgrade, and you want them to be coming your direction. So what are your tips for VARs and ISVs to make them that ideal partner to help out with that transition, so that when someone is ready, is looking to reach out and saying, hey, you know what, I need something new, I'm going to reach out to 4 or 5 companies to see what they can help me with, or maybe just one to start with. What do you think is going to help a VAR be in the right position to be that trusted advisor that someone wants to reach out to?
We've done a couple of different things. So back to the list of the requirements, that's critical. And so we have a list of requirements that say, these are the things you should be looking in your next gen point of sale. And like most people, suggestively, the stuff that we do really well is in bold and at the top. And, the stuff that maybe we don't do as well may not be mentioned as overtly, but that's part of what you're doing in selling is educating them into the right buying decision. And so that's part of it, is helping that end user to achieve the end result that they're looking for, which is to be able to get to where they want to get to. So educating them on, here's the things, we talked about it. What are the things you love? Make sure that they write those things down, evaluate them, question them, the things that they're missing. Help them get educated about the things that they're missing, the things that they want to do, and then go out and give them 2 or 3 people that they may be able to look at, that whether you've got some advantage over them. Would be my recommendation. You've got some advantage of things that you can do. The last piece that we do is we have something called a proven process, which is our blueprint of how we're going to take your technology. A lot of people's fear about replacing technology is they've been sold a bill of goods, for lack of a better term, on the business side. There's all of these companies that come in and tell them, I'm going to save you X amount, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's a sales pitch. And at the end of the day, they don't deliver the results. So a lot of retailers, a lot of restaurants, a lot of grocers are shy about doing it because they're like, you know what? I've been told this 7 times that you're going to solve this problem, and you're the 8th person that's walked in the door that's told me you can solve this for me, and nobody has yet. And so showing them in both the case studies that you talked about earlier, Dean, as well as I've got a process to help take you from where you are today to where you need to go. And we've done it 100 times over. And so we have a 7-step process that starts with discovery, turns into, product presentation, turns into implementation. And we walk through that to show the end user that we are a partner that's in this to help you be successful and achieve the goals that you're looking for. We're not just a technology provider that's going to sell it and forget it. We want to be a long-term partner for 3, 5, 10, 15 years, because at the end of the day, if we're successful, I mean, if you're successful, we're more successful. And if we're more successful, you can help open up new properties and such, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, right, it gets back to the trusted advisor. I think that's just such a good little phrase here to
Wait, do we have to pay Roddy for that every time we say it?
dang it, do we? Yeah, I don't know. But it's so true, right? I mean,
the open bar at retail now, he got free beers there. So
there you go.
But what makes you an ideal partner is to be that trusted advisor, right? The one that's bringing to the table these types of solutions. And if you're not really good at being a trusted advisor, because I mean, I get it. I guess some resellers, they get very comfortable in their world. They understand their solution, and they create this bubble that they're within. But getting out of that bubble is actually easier than you might think. You just leverage the ecosystem that's around you. We profess all the time, get with your vendors. Your vendors have ecosystems. If you're working whatever, your receipt printer, your touchscreen, they all have programs in place, resources in place to go out there and find these types of technology add-ons that help the ecosystem. So leverage that. Distributors do it. BlueStar does it. We do it. I mean, these are people that you can work with on a day-to-day basis, that you are working with on a day-to-day basis, that can increase your ecosystem so you become an even more trusted advisor. Because I think that's right, Jeremy. You want to be the one that you can just assume that they're going to be pinging at least 2 or 3 people. If they're in the market for something new, I mean, what do, right? You go to at least 2 or 3 different sources.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the guy I got today, but I'm going to go to these guys and gals over here too, just to see if they're still comparable.
And it's easier than ever to do your own research.
Easier than ever to do it. So, but you have to position yourself as that advisor that is kind of, just that non-branded, hey, here's what we're seeing, here's the case studies, all the things that we've mentioned here. Yeah.
Well, and to go back what Jeremy mentioned earlier about the whole theft, for instance, theft and shrinkage. Maybe it's one of those things that someone just doesn't even know that you can address that problem, so they're not bothering to tell you about it. When you're asking about their issues, they're like, "Well, you're just the POS guy. You're just the the inventory management gal. It's I know what I come to you for." And you're the hardware person. That's all I need out of you, right? You're not going to help with anything else. So I'm not going to talk about shrinkage. I'm not going to talk about labor problems. It's like there's no need for me to talk about this stuff with you. Again, I think we talk so much about the modern VAR 2.0, 3.0. I think a big part of that is being someone who is kind of worldly,
yes.
And just very knowledgeable and someone that, again, we go back to trusted advisor, cha-ching, Roddy. Every time when we just, you come back to that conversation and realize hey, if you're able to present yourself as someone who knows more than just here's a cash wrap, here's a printer, here's a digital display, I'll hook it up for you and then see you later. We know that's not what we're supposed to be anymore. So make sure that any kind of out-facing marketing or SEO or your website or however it is that you're connecting with customers, or if you have an established relationship, make sure they are aware and can see very clearly that you know about more things and have more connectivity to other parts of their business than just
you
what they
increased your
think you're
value.
supposed to be for.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what a value-added reseller should be doing.
There you go.
It's in the name.
I don't think you're allowed to call yourself that if you don't do that kind of stuff. Yeah. So.
Well, and the one other thing I caution a lot of VARs against is trying to do all of it.
Right,
all
for
on
sure.
Your own.
Yeah.
Because I think I look at this machine learning thing that we're working on, this computer vision machine learning piece, and could we do it? Absolutely. Do I understand the technology? We have people a lot smarter than me that are on our team that could figure that out. But that's not our charge. Our charge is to figure out how to be the best point of sale provider in the restaurant industry for this type of vertical. And so we know a lot about that. Let's go find partners that we can work with that we're going to solve that problem for that customer. And you know what? You can only be great at, and I evaluate, and our executive team evaluates. If we can't be number 1 or number 2 in the world at this, then we should probably find a partner that can be number 1 or number 2 in the world at this type of tech, but now build a deep level partnership where you can now be the trusted advisor that says, hey, I'm going to bring you in with my friend John here, who John is now going to show you how theft is a critical part of this business. And he's going to show you the theft management, loss prevention problem that you have that you don't even know you have. But now John is an external validator that says, go talk to Jeremy because Jeremy's got fantastic point of sale. I've got loss prevention. Now you've got 2 people telling this guy to buy your point of sale. versus you being the only one in there standing at the rooftops going, I
Hey.
can do everything, back from me.
That's right.
Hey, look
That's
at me.
good stuff, right?
I got point of sale. You need some
yeah.
point of sale. Hey, do you need point of sale? Do you? No? Okay. Exactly. All right. Hey, this is good stuff. I like this approach. I like this attitude of, our 3 steps here: evaluating their current system, choose the right system for your needs, and research technology providers. So
Yes.
good
Nice.
stuff. I think
Good
we got
stuff.
there. All right. Well,
A simple plan. That's what I like.
it is
right?
a very
Boom,
simple
boom,
plan.
boom. Yeah.
So before we
simple
wrap up with our value to the VAR, kind of a takeaway from this conversation, I want to, as always, thank the sponsors of our TEConnect podcast, the TEConnect program. We appreciate everybody that supports our show on a regular basis. Hey, if you like the show, we kind of need to hear from you. We need some likes.
Yep.
We need some reviews.
Throw 'em up there.
We need subscriptions.
Yep.
Just every now and then. I would love for every now and then to get an email or get a little ping.
Get an idea,
saying,
something like that.
Hey, I like the show. Honestly, even if you don't like it, I need some kind of validation at this point, So just send that stuff into us. We want to hear from you on a regular basis. And hey, if you have ideas for the show, if there's topics we need to dive into, if you're saying, hey, I want Jeremy to come back on and talk to us a little bit more about KDS. Great. We'd be happy to do that, but we need to know what you want to hear about. So to do that, there's always a link in the show notes to provide topic ideas to us. Send those in to us. Even if we do not use your idea, we will still send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt.
That's right.
And honestly, we're most likely we'll use the idea. If it's something we're capable of, we'll most likely use it.
We'll weave it in somehow.
Yeah, we like getting ideas. It makes it so much easier when I get, all right, I don't have to go out looking for a new idea for the show today. Someone just gave me one. I just got to find someone to talk about it.
That's right. That's right.
And as always, if you want to stay in touch with us, you can find us on Twitter /X/ who knows what it might be called when this episode comes out. It's at TEConnect Pod, or you can email us TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here, starting with our value to the VAR. This is our way of kind of giving a little takeaway to our audience, maybe something they can think about. And I know a lot of our VARs, may deal primarily in hardware. And granted, again, we know in this current VAR ecosystem, if you don't have software partners, you're probably not a value-added reseller at this point. You're probably just a guy that sells some stuff. But we also know, I think when we talk about POS, I feel like software tends to get a lot of the attention. Like that's where most people are thinking, like, all right, what is the software going to do? But we know that the hardware is a critical component too. I think you mentioned at the very top of the show that when you're thinking about a legacy POS, it's not just the software; that the hardware is part of that too. So why do you think evaluating the latest hardware is just as crucial when you're upgrading a system?
I mean, especially for retailers. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the tool that they're using to capture the data that they need. And if it's not working, we're not doing, not fulfilling the purposes. And so what we look for when we're evaluating those things is, where are those long-term partnerships? Is the hardware distributor willing to listen to us? What are our customers looking for? What do they want? What do they need? What are the things that they're looking to put in? And we provide that feedback to those partners. And so again, truly understanding who your vertical market is, what it is that they're trying to solve, and then going out and spending time with your distributors, going out and spending time at the trade shows to figure out those things is critical to your success, because they represent you. At the end of the day, if you pick the wrong hardware provider and you go sell a piece of hardware to somebody as a VAR, you're going to end up getting the good if it works really well, or the bad if it doesn't work really well. And so evaluating that. The last piece that we always do, always, is before we put a piece of technology into the field, we have our guys that have been doing this for a long time do a full breakdown of what is going to break within this unit and provide that feedback to the manufacturers. Epson comes out with a new printer. We happen to be a big Epson partner, but I'm not, saying that they're best or worst or whatever. We look at their printer and we go, okay, this power supply is going to have a problem with this connector coming out of the printer. We provide that feedback to the engineers. We're working with different hardware, terminal manufacturers. What's going to happen on this hinge in this environment for these customers? And we provide that feedback. And so hopefully that answers your question, but we evaluate those things, one, to understand what the needs of our customers are. Very, very, very critical. We've talked about that the entire show. And then secondarily, when we're out looking to solve those problems, is the hardware going to be reliable? If you're doing $20,000 a week in sales and you lose 1/3 of your terminals, there's a chance your sales are going to go down by 1/3, because now you no longer have the ability to ring up those sales. How much is that worth to you to make sure that you've got a new piece of hardware that will work and fulfill the business needs and business purposes that you have?
That's exactly right. And evaluating also goes beyond maybe some of the stuff that you're comfortable with. Like, for example, kiosks, self-serve, that's huge, right? That continues to grow. And if you don't have that, you need to know about the hardware and some of the specs behind it and what are the breakpoints and everything that Jeremy just mentioned. Brilliant. But also the functionality, Bluetooth connectivity. Does it connect to peripherals and things of that nature? You got to know these things and be able to bring them to the table to the benefit of your customers.
Yeah, bad hardware can bring good software down.
There you go.
And I'll give you.
I love that.
I'll give you a very practical example. It's just that I just discovered in my own personal life a couple days ago. My wife and I get into bed, decide we're going to watch a show we've been watching on Netflix.
Yep.
Now our TV in our bedroom, we just got a fairly cheap small TV in there. And we got one that's like built for streaming. Like it's one of the kinds made by a streaming service. I'm not going to call them out, but it's made by a streaming service. It's built to just, have a bunch of apps on it or whatever and go to your streaming service. We turn it on. I go to load up Netflix. Netflix takes like 5 minutes to load, takes another 5 minutes to choose a profile, another couple minutes to choose our program, another couple minutes to start. About 2 minutes into the episode, it kind of freezes up, and I had to go back and turn it off and back on again.
That's right.
And it's one of those things like, I know that if we went and watched this same show in the living room on the Apple TV, it would be fine. There would have been none of this.
Hardware is the issue.
This wasn't a Netflix problem. This is a TV problem.
Yes.
I think it's the same thing for this kind of stuff.
That's
somebody
right.
might be using a point of sale system and thinking like, man, I can't get this transaction rung up fast enough. I can't get my data from here to the back, of the restaurant as quickly as I'd like. I'm having issues getting these orders processed in the right order here, moving stuff around.
It keeps freezing up. It didn't have enough RAM, all this stuff. Yeah.
And they're thinking again, the software is that's the part that you're seeing and dealing with and working on. Yeah. So your assumption might be it's the software is the issue, when in reality, it might be the hardware that's the actual problem there.
Hardware.
So, I think that can be a great talking point, to folks is like, hey, if stuff's going wrong and you like your software, it may not be the software's problem. Let's evaluate what's going on with the hardware. Maybe you just need a faster, better, more modern hardware piece.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, let's wrap up the show as always with our favorite segment, What's TEConnecting with You? This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, innovation, business, just something we feel like talking about that's got our eye, caught our attention. We just feel like chatting about today. So, Jeremy, I'll let you start. What's TEConnecting with you?
On the personal side, I have been loving the iterations of the ChatGPT and all of their image stuff. We were talking actually pre-show about doing the podcast. Like, I used to sit and labor over writing the descriptions for the show. Using AI and using those tools to summarize the podcast has been a game changer for me for my own podcast, restauranttechnologyguys.com. That's been huge. I never used to do images for stuff, and I'm using Dolly and I'm using Canva and I'm using Microsoft Designer to help create the thumbnails for the YouTube channel and the podcast posts, like just stuff that I'm not very good with all of those kind of things. And so put a camera in front of me, put a mic in front of me, let me talk and I'm good, but make me do all of that kind of stuff. It has changed my world and has been hugely helpful in ways that I never thought. And I'm imagining a world even in our own business where that's going to really become a huge piece of what it is that we do.
For sure. Studies already show one of the most impactful places that AI is encroaching is marketing, just the world of content creation and things of that nature. Huge. And to the benefit, right? Now you're so much more efficient. It's good stuff.
I've never felt the need to keep a tally on this show of like the different times people say the same thing for their tech. But man, ChatGPT has been by far the most popular go-to for a lot of folks. And I don't blame anybody for that. I mean, it's a very game-changing type of tech that nobody can find a good reason not to be fascinated by it if you start using it. So.
That's right. Well,
all right, Dean.
Well, here's another tech that I thought was supposed to be around by now, but I'm going to go back to it.
Is it flying cars again?
It is flying cars, but this guy is flying taxis, right? So
okay.
It's always been this long-running. I swear, by now in my life, I would have sworn that we would be in flying cars. But apparently that's
You're
not.
You're a big Jetsons fan as a kid, weren't you?
Exactly. But it may be happening now. And here's the evidence. Plane manufacturer Embraer I think that's how you pronounce it. They're out of Brazil. Says they are actually building flying taxis, and they're going to actually produce these new units by 2026. So 2026 is the
not
year.
far off.
They said they've got orders for 3,000 of them. This is in Brazil. It's in Sao Paulo. So that's where they're going to fly initially. And by the way, what does an air taxi ride go for? What would you think? It's going to be in the $50 to $100
Okay, I was
so
going to
not
say
terrible.
50, $60.
Not terrible.
Yeah.
Yep. U.S. regulators are recently releasing timelines for air taxis here in the United States. It could be as early as 2025. So now you've
there's
got
been some tests of them already, I think.
well, now
Yeah.
you got a significant manufacturer. I mean, Embraer Air, they've been doing airplanes forever.
Yeah.
But now, so maybe it's getting a little closer. Maybe now the question begs now, though, Jeremy, would you get in one? But by the way, the first ones are going to have
Now, are these automated?
pilots.
Okay, I was gonna say.
The first ones are going to have pilots, they say, but very soon thereafter, they're going to be pilotless. So anyway, are you gonna take a ride in an electric? Taxi?
I have something that I don't know, maybe I wasn't quite there when we last were on the show. I do own a car that has autonomous driving.
Yes.
And so I use that a lot.
So you're comfortable
Okay.
with the tech
And so
already.
I am getting more comfortable with letting my car drive me to work.
Yep.
The air thing, yes. At the end of the day, yes. I do have 4 kids and I have a wife. I asked her the other day, I said, hey, if you knew that like I only had like a month left to live, would you let me go do all these crazy things? She's like, you could do it now. I just won't be very happy with you. And so, so with that, yes, I do believe I would be one of those people. I'm always an early adopter for this kind of tech. So yes.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I can go hang out in Sao Paulo and go figure that out.
I like it. I like it. Let's go.
I'd probably be a little more ready to get into the air taxi than I am a self-driving car. Just because there's less other people up there
I
to
see.
cause a problem. At least in the self-driving car, I'm just like, all right, I still got to worry about all these other idiots on the road that don't know how to drive.
Right.
But at least when I'm doing the flying thing, and I'm assuming you're not getting up high enough where the airplanes actually are.
Right.
There's probably just not a lot of other traffic up there to worry about. So, I mean, as
right.
long as you get over the idea of like, do I worry that this thing's going to crash? I think I might be a little more comfortable with that than the cars at this point. So
Fair enough. Well,
that could change, but we'll see.
All right, so keep that in your mind here. It could be
There
as
you
early
go.
as 2020. This is only 2 years away, dude.
Yeah, that's true.
Doing flying taxis. There you go. What's the TEConnecting with you?
All right, so you mentioned you have an autonomous vehicle you're using, Jeremy. I'm assuming it's got an EV. It's an EV, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so and you have an EV as well.
Yep.
So let me ask you guys: is your insurance an issue with EVs?
What do you mean an issue? It's more.
Okay, so because this is the article I found on Reuters here, EV batteries remain a major challenge for insurers.
Oh.
So apparently insurance companies are struggling with how to evaluate and how to valuate a vehicle that has a battery in it.
Well, this is a good point.
Basically because they're like, well, if something even slightly damages the battery, do we even know how to repair that? Do we even have any idea of what the cost of a repair is?
By the way.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're talking thousands of dollars.
So essentially, this is like, it's just a lack of data is a big part of it. That just there hasn't been enough, there's not enough data on crashes and the issues that can potentially arise.
It's a little surprising, but go ahead.
And apparently it's creating a headache for insurance companies where now they're thinking like, well, we need to like jack our premiums up because we just simply don't. Basically what they're saying is some of the insurance companies have been saying like, we felt like we needed to just completely scrap and total the car and pay out that otherwise had had minimal damage that otherwise would have been very easily fixable and not have to be totaled. But because the battery was involved in some way, we now have to total the whole thing because the cost of switching out a battery, replacing that, or even understanding if there's any way to repair said battery is no longer worth it at this point. So it's causing a kind of a crux for the insurance companies when it comes to electric vehels. So I'm kind of curious about because we've talked about like
I'm not going to whine. I'm not going to cry too much about it because this is their job, and they're already making pretty good money, I'm sure.
But it could impact you if your premiums start raising because they're look, we're going to charge you more because we simply have no idea how much it's going to cost to replace these vehicles. We don't quite have that.
But I'm really surprised that they've got armies of actuaries out there that understand how to crunch these numbers. I mean, it's a car, so it's still going to get in the same kind of accidents that any other car would get.
True.
Now you just have to extrapolate. Well, okay, what's the likelihood that? They've got to have thought that through. I'm a little surprised.
You think they're just suggesting this as a way to get away with higher premiums?
I'm suspicious. Yes,
I guarantee that's the case because for me, my car has kept me out of accidents because it's smarter than I am. It sees things that I don't see, and so it moves lanes. I mean, again, I have this autonomous car that moves and does things, slows down when I'm like, how did it see that, some, deer running across the road that I would have never seen, but it saw it through its cameras. And so I don't know. I'm skeptical. I think they're just trying to figure out a way to jack up the premiums.
That's what I think it is. I think that's a hit piece on.
All right. Well, the public needs to catch on and needs to start railing against these companies.
I mean, the woe is me. We're so dumb we can't figure this out. Card is not a really good one, especially in the insurance agent. I mean, come on. That's all he do is crunch numbers all day.
That is. Let's be honest. Insurance to some extent is kind of a scam anyway.
Yeah,
so
right.
they're just looking for an additional way to build the scam out further there.
Good stuff.
Hey,
no doubt.
If the next show is just you and I because he got hit by the insurance agencies, we'll have to figure out another co-host for you.
Fair enough.
No doubt. All right. That's what's TEConnecting with us. It is time for us to unplug today. Jeremy Julian, thanks for joining us today. Hey, check out Restaurant Tech Guys. We highly recommend that podcast. It's good stuff. And until next time, go get on a flying taxi and
prepare. Yes.
And check your insurance rates on your EV vehicle there. So. And as always, folks, please stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by Zebra. If it isn't broken, why replace it?
What?
We just talked about this on the pod today.
We did just talk about this, yes.
Nothing ever goes wrong with thinking like that, right? It's just, it's a great way to think about everything.
Head in sand, yes.
Customers often take this mentality, but we know there's a difference between not broken and not working optimally.
Aha.
Especially regarding legacy printers.
Yes.
We talked about legacy POS, now we're talking legacy printers.
Yes.
Zebra is here to help with their latest ebook, Knowing When to Say When, 3 Reasons Your Customers Should Refresh Legacy Printers. Printers can be a mission-critical component of many industries. As long as they are churning out labels, receipts, or tags, it can be easy to take them for granted until they stop working.
That's right.
Zebra printers are ultra-reliable and long-lasting, but even the best gear should be upgraded occasionally to keep up with new demands and innovations.
Dude, of course.
If you're ready to do that, you're ready to help your customers do that and help them
you
convince
should.
them they need to. Check out the link in the show notes to read the ebook and learn how to have these important conversations with your customers. The TEConnect Podcast is also brought to you by ELO and the 70 Series Full HD Professional Grade Touch Monitors.
Nice.
Man, just
the way you said that was like, oh.
I should be ELO's hype man.
I think you should.
70 Series Professional Grade Monitors. Wah, 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 wah.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Elo, you probably didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
The 70 Series delivers professional-grade, feature-rich platforms well-suited for POS, interactive digital signage, self-service, document signing, and more.
Wow.
All right, let's talk some of the features here. Narrow border touchscreen.
Like it.
Energy Star 8.0 certified.
Needed.
Scratch-resistant surface.
Oh.
Durable IK07 design.
Yes.
Low blue light and flicker free.
Nice.
Touch on-screen display tilt from 20 to 70 degrees, built-in speakers, and a collapsible stand for Visa mounting.
Look at all those things that ELO thinks about and puts into their product.
Exactly.
Wow.
They got it covered.
Yeah.
You got options also for the screen size, too, available in 22, 24, and now 27-inch sizes and black or white housings. The 70 Series delivers the quality and reliability you expect from ELO, backed with a standard 3-year warranty, extendable to 5 years with optional advanced unit replacement.
Nice.
Why would you not be buying and selling these?
I don't know. Yeah, that's why we can't keep them on the shelf. They're just, it's crazy.
There you go. Exactly. Check out the link in the show notes to learn more about these new monitors.